Okay, welcome back to the AutoRouter 2.3.0 video tutorial. Let's see if we can get this package to work for us. Okay, so in the last video we did the installation and setup for this particular Flutter package. Now we want to actually generate some code. But the first thing I want to do, and you should do this as you're developing the application, any application you work on is don't let your code get too big and complex and difficult to even just like look at on the screen. Okay, so what I like to do in this main.dart where everything is, where we left off, is I like it just to have my main app here. Okay, and then I'm going to pull everything else out. Okay, so it looks like what we have here is we have 3 stateless widgets. So we're going to have, let's see, first root. Yeah, so this one that returns a material app, this I don't really consider a screen or a view, but these two I do, and a lot of times you'll see these called pages. So it'll be like first page instead of first root. But in one of the Flutter docs, they call these things, the pages or the screens, a route. Even though in my mind a route is the path between 2 locations or 2 pages. But because we did that first cookbook recipe, we're just going to leave this as is for now. So yeah, you can either call these pages screens. One thing I like to do is I look at Flutterfolio, this open source package, or sorry, this open source Flutter app, and I try to see, well, what have they done? So here's their lib directory. And I see that they have a folder called views. Again, like you can call it routes, you can call it screens or pages. They have one called views, and they further organize things. There's their splash page. So let's just stay with that convention. Instead of calling it pages or routes to match the name of our classes, let's create, I like to just create a new Dart file. So what I want to do is call this views / first _ route, and what this is going to do is create the views folder for me, and then create first _ route, which matches this class name, but in a sort of snake case convention, and then the IDE will put .dart on the end. Okay, yeah, sure, why not? Add the file to Git. So I have my views, and then first route.dart, and that is where this guy's going to go. Okay, so let's put that over there. Did I cut that, or did I? Yeah, okay. Okay, so when you first cut and paste something, you're going to have these red squiggly lines, and I think you press Option Enter. Yes. Okay, so this is any material in order to use that stateless widget. Looks like the line numbers changed, but it kept me here, which is nice. See how I imported that right there? And then second route here, let's do Option Enter again and import. Oh, we haven't put that in its own page yet. So let's do that now. This second route here, it's going to do something similar. New Dart file. And this time I right-clicked from views. So I'm just going to say second route like that, and it'll plop it in there. If you plop it in the wrong place, just move it. All right, go back to main. We will cut and paste this. So I'm using idea vim, and so my commands are a little bit different. Okay. Okay, and let's Option Enter, and we will import material.dart just like that. It has no reference to the first page. Remember, whenever we navigated, we just popped off the context. So wherever we navigated from, when we land on second page.route, if we click back, it's going to just remove the second route from the stack of routes. and then push us back here. So now we can properly import this from. I like to use the full, the fully qualified path or whatever, and we'll import that. Okay. So these are my views that I put here, even though they're called first route and second route. Okay. Now in main.dart we still have my app. So I'm just going to cut all of this and put it into another file. It'll be next to main. It's going to be a Dart file. I think I'll just call it my app. Okay. And there's that. We need to now import our stateless widget, material.dart, and then our first route. So it needs to know about that one in the views there. And option enter again and import that library. Main.dart. Okay, now it needs to reference my app. Okay, so let's import that. Okay, so that is how we just reorganize everything before we get ourselves into a mess. Okay. Let's see, did Flutterfolio do something similar in their lib directory? They have main.dart. What did they do? I just want to make sure what I'm looking at. Where did they say run app? Okay, then they have their multi-provider. Yeah, their thing's really complex here, so it's like they could have extracted their app bootstrapper into a separate class, but they didn't. As your app grows, maybe you'll need more stuff in this main.dart, but I like to leave it simple. That way I can just close it and forget about it. If I need to make changes to my app here, for example, on this home route, maybe I want to wrap this with the provider package, like some provider for state management. I can do that there, and then I can treat my pages here, my views, as one widget, and it's probably easier to test as well. Another reason I like views is because I'm going to talk about Ruby on Rails later, but the Rails views folder, that's what they call it. So obviously that's going to be hard to search on. But they have their app, so this is kind of like lib in Flutter. You have app in Ruby on Rails, and then they have a views folder, and then here you have, for like if you have articles, you have an index page, an edit page, a show page to show a particular one. And I think this is like the RESTful way to do something. Okay, so that's why I also like sticking with views. So that's why I like that. I think that's all I want to show from Flutterfolio for now, was just that reorganization part. And before we get into the actual routing, I want to commit this. Okay, so let's get status. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Get status. Yeah, so I have new files. They've already been staged by default when I clicked add on that pop-up. Now I want to add these. Again, my way of doing this is get add -p. Okay, so it looks like out of main.dart, I've added an import of my app because that was taken out, but I've taken out my app and my two routes. Okay, so I'm going to say yes. My app.dart. This was a new file, I believe, and so that's where I put my app. Say yes. This is my first route, yes. And then my second route, I want to add that as well. Okay, so I do that just to like jog my memory. What am I putting into this commit? Okay, now we can get status. All right, let's get commit these things. I want to say this is kind of like, we didn't really make any changes. We just refactored the maybe top level app, which is the material app. which is what's in there, right? That's a detail. I'm going to say we refactored the main app and routes. Okay, so the material app, which is in my app, is next to main.dart now. And then I also want to say that our pages / routes is in the views folder. Plural. Pages / routes are in the views folder. Okay, I think that's it. Git log. There we go. Thank you. I got it. Okay. What else? We should probably build it and make sure that we didn't screw anything up. So let's see if this builds. My simulator open? It is. Let me just let the IDE do its thing. Starting DevTools. Okay, there's my Run tab. Okay, so it's launching there. It might take a little bit. Let's preview what we're going to be doing next. We're going to create a placeholder class and annotate it. Okay, so the gist of AutoRoute is you have this generator class where you type in a sort of like specification, and then that's going to be used as input into the AutoRoute generator package to then generate an actual routes file, or some people might call it a router file. And then that code, that generated code, is what you're actually going to use in your application logic, in your code, in your widgets. Okay, let's take a look. Xcode build. Okay, it's still working. Okay, we're back. We got it built and working, I believe. Okay, so everything is here. We have our first route going to our second route, and we can go back. So that's great. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is use our routes. If you remember, our first route is using navigator.push, pushing onto the second route. And then the second route is actually popping off the context. So let's go through and replace this, this first route with what we get from AutoRoute. Okay, so let's first, we're on setup and usage. So we're going to create a placeholder class and annotate it with this @ thing, @material AutoRouter, which takes a list of routes as a required argument. Okay, this is the list of routes it's referring to. So one of the keys that it takes in, or the name parameter, or keyword argument it's also called, is a route, and this is your list of auto routes here. There's a lot of white space there for some reason. Okay. The name of the router must be prefixed with a $. That's this thing down here. This is what we're going to call our routes, the generated file, so that we have a generated class with the same name minus the $. Okay, so let's do that. Let's, interesting. Let's take this and, now remember it said, create a placeholder class. All right, so what I'm going to do is, because I come from the Ruby on Rails world, I really like this, this convention in a config directory to create routes.rb. In our case, it's going to be routes.dart. In other people's repos, you might see something like router.dart. They'll even create a directory here and I think these are called packages in Android Studio. So I'm going to call mine config. You might see people do router, so they'll have a router folder and then router.dart. I'd rather just call it config because maybe we want to have other things that are in our application that are like router, that do other sort of utilitarian type things, or maybe configurations that we want to put in there. So yeah, I'm going to stick with config, and then I'll create a Dart file, and I'm going to call it routes, okay, and then .dart will automatically be appended, and I probably want to add that to Git, yes. Okay, so now we have config routes.dart. It follows the convention from Ruby on Rails. I really like that. Let's take this code, copy it, and paste it. Now, I think you can use, like if you're using Cupertino, you can use that instead of Material. I'm not sure what adaptive, but custom is more where you can like actually customize it. We're not going to use those right now. What I want to do is import something. So I think, I'm not sure about annotations. Maybe that's what we need for this. Okay, so that made it go away. So annotations, I think is what you would call this. We're annotating this thing here, okay? Now, we don't have a book list page, that's from the example, but you'll see here we're declaring this first one as the initial route, which we want to be our first route, correct? Oops. So we're going to put it in just like that, first route. Okay, so it's the initial one. And then we are going to have our, cannot spell, second route. Okay, and that's it. Let's import these now. So we've got our first route, and we need to import our second route. Okay, so now we have all our imports up here. This replace in route name, if this instead of being called first route was first page, we might use this, but because we are our file names, our class names for our widgets in our views, we're using this from the Flutter cookbook. I want to just get rid of this and see what happens when I generate my routes file. So instead of calling this app router, I want to call this routes. That way when I'm speaking about my the routes in my program, I can say refer to the routes file. Okay. Some people, let me show you something real quick. So Flutter already has a built-in router class. Okay. Here it is. So while you might be tempted to call your class router, I would advise against doing that. Because there's already one in Flutter. Okay, so it was originally called app router, or you can call it routes like I have. Okay, so here we have config, we have our routes.dart, we've kind of declared everything. This is what we need for our first generation. Now how do we generate our AutoRoute code? Okay. Simply run the generator. Okay, it's not so simple all the time. There might be a flag we have to use later. Okay, there's two ways to do it. You can say Flutter packages pub run build runner. Remember we had that build runner earlier. That's what this is for. You can either say watch or build. I kind of want to just do it once. Okay. Because I want to be more hands-on until I'm comfortable with letting it just sit in the background and watch for changes. Okay, so we're going to use this. Let's run this in our terminal. Yes. Okay, Flutter packages pub run build runner build. And let's see what happens. It might take a while to build on the first time, honestly. So what it's going to do is generate a routes file. But then we're going to have to do some extra setup to use it. So in our material app, we're actually going to have to use material app.router and then use these two keys, the router delegate and the route information parser. Let's go back to Flutter Folio. I want to show you what they've done. So in their main.dart, so do they have a material app? Yes. So look, they're doing something very similar. Right now in our application, my app.dart, we have our material app and that's it. Okay, it's not the material app.router version. I'm not sure when that was introduced into Flutter, but I noticed that Flutter Folio is using material app.router. I don't know that they're using, I think they're doing their own thing because they have a to-do here that says use a custom route delegate to change navigation. To-do, replace with vRouter or navstack. So these are, I guess, some alternatives. Okay, but it's good to see that somebody's already using this. Okay. Once the stuff is generated, we'll go in and actually put that in. Or, after you run the generator. Okay, then we hook it up. So our generator, okay, it just finished. Very nice. What has happened, nothing has changed here, but that build command that I just ran, it took all this and it generated some code and created a new file called routes. And here it is, routes.gr for generated .dart. Okay, so let's open that up. There's a nice loud message at the beginning, generated code, do not modify by hand. Okay, it's very important. That's a good comment. Let's actually look at the build output and see if there's anything interesting we should pay attention to. Okay, build script completed. It precompiled the build script. It took the inputs. I assume that's this stuff that we put here, and then built a new asset graph. I don't know what that is, but that's pretty cool. What took the longest? This was like 22 seconds, was precompiling. Checking for unexpected pre-existing outputs. Okay. Running the build. Okay. And it did this several times. I don't know what that means. Info, so many seconds elapsed. 5 of 6 actions completed. No actions completed for 25 seconds. It's waiting on that. Okay, so there is a warning. I don't know if that's like a meaningful warning or not. Okay. Dependency graph, caching, and it succeeded. Awesome. One output. So that's our one file, I think. Okay. It's good to just, at least for the first time, read that stuff. So here is the file it makes. This is what I would call our routes file. It generates all this boilerplate kind of code that you don't have to write yourself. Okay. I don't really want to go into too much detail. It's pretty complicated stuff. It's overriding. Looks like this pages map method. There's routes. Okay. You see, you can define that path. That first path is just a /. It doesn't use / and then first route. Okay, there's second route. Okay, now down at the bottom, okay, so this whole file, it consists of one class called routes, and then you have first route route. Okay, that doesn't look good, does it? Right. Okay, first route route. This is very important. I'm glad we discovered this. The reason is, do you remember that thing that used to be here as well? It was like, let me just see if I can find it. Replace in route name. And it had this weird way of doing it where it was like page route in the event that this was called first page. Instead of calling first page route, it would just be first route. And that's, let me put route here, and now we'll try to use this key. But it's not going to fix our problem immediately. We have to regenerate our routes file. Okay, so let's do that. Let's save that, and I'm going to arrow up and run this build command again. All right, here we go. Let's let it build. Okay, now we're familiar with this stuff. It looks like it's reading the cached asset graph because we cached that once, remember? Okay. Info, 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 and then it spit out a warning, I think. Oh, this isn't each time, it's just printing every second or so if something has completed. Kind of looks like a little bug or something where maybe you could actually get the seconds to increment in one line. Okay. All right, so it worked. Let's go take a look, and did we fix our issue? Aha, check it out. Okay, so now this stuff was all the same. Again, I'm going to close this class. This is good. This is called first route. The name of this route is called first route. Second route, second route. Okay, everything's good. So that's how you use that. This is kind of what the thing ends with, and this is what you want to replace it with. If you didn't have that, it would be second page route or second route, depending on how you did that. All right, so we have successfully generated our routes. Now, after you run the generator, hook it up with Material app. If you were using Cupertino app or something else, but this is kind of like the place you want to do that. All right, so let's change Material app to Material app.router. But I wonder, we want to stop here for now. Let's do that. Yes. Okay, there's our what do they call that? Annotation. So this is like the annotated routes file. Did I add that other one? No, I'm just going to add the rest of that. That's our generated code. Okay. Annotate and generate the routes file. Routes files. Okay, good. Now, this next thing we want to do is finalize the setup. So we'll hook it up. So let's just do all this code together in one commit. The first thing I want to do is take my Material app and make it a .router. Okay. You'll see up here that they're using, now remember, theirs was called app router and we made ours routes. This is kind of a global variable that you can use. Later, I think the author says you might not want to do this. But anyways, we'll get to that when we actually want to use it. Okay, so let's make this .router. Okay, here we go. .router. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. So now, this kind of makes sense, right? Instead of having a home and saying go to first route, Material app is no longer responsible for saying go to the first route. That's your home command. All right, that's your home place. Now, our routes file, the annotated one, we told it what the initial route was. Okay, so everything's managed in here. This is what we actually edit to make this happen. So what we got to do is just get rid of that. Okay, let's save that. And I'm curious why this .router, do I need to import something else? Okay, now add required argument router delegate and route information parser. Okay, there's that. And then the other one was route information parser, I believe. Hello. It doesn't want to do it now for some reason, and because this is null. Okay, anyways. I don't know why it's doing that. $. Okay, apparently that was in my pasteboard. Let's just do it from here. All right, let's take these two things. Okay, now I'm just going to put these right here. Okay. So there's two ways to use route delegate. You can either say AutoRouter delegate, and look, that's misspelled. Okay. And then app delegate, or you can use this way. Okay, this was originally commented out. What I want to do is deal with the first one where there's not an option. Okay, so let's do route information parser. This app router, how does this get created? Let's just use this. Maybe I was wrong earlier about that. Maybe this would go here. Like he doesn't have an override. Okay. Now remember, it wasn't app router. Ours was called routes. Okay, so then I want to import my generated routes file. I'm going to do the long form like that. Okay, and instead of calling it app router, because this is it's a private variable, I'm okay just leaving it as router. I mean, you could call that routes like that, but I think for the purpose of like using the routes, I'm going to leave it as router, just because I think that's a convention that you'll see a lot of people who are using AutoRoute are going to use it. So we have a routes file, but then if I want to call router dot push, a particular screen onto the page on the app and in the stack, I'm going to say router. Okay. So now, like down here, I can do that. Does that work? Okay, so that's good. That's what we wanted to do. Now, you might be looking at this. Remember, there was this misspelling in here, and being like, where is this app delegate coming from? This is actually, I think, another typo, because it should be router. And if you're just reading the docs on your own, it's going to be really hard to know. Okay, now if I import AutoRoute, okay, now that works. But let me show you something. I'm going to undo that. So I've taken it away. Now remember, we removed our home earlier, so we don't need that first route imported into here. Instead, because there's this convention on the route information parser, I think what I'm going to do is go for the router delegate, doing it this way. Okay, so let's uncomment that, like so. I'm just going to comment this out so you can see it while I'm doing it. Remember, it wasn't app delegate, it's just router. Okay. What that does is now I don't have to import AutoRoute into this file. And these two things look similar, and I like the way that looks and feels a little better. Okay, so that was the part where we are finalizing the setup there. Okay, now up to this point, we still have our original routes. Okay, and they still work, right? Open route, go back, open route, go back. What we want to do now is use AutoRoute. Okay. All right. This section in the documentation, I think, is just going through the generated routes file. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like what we already showed. Okay, where this was the class at the bottom of the generated file. Okay. Okay. What we want to do is navigate between screens. AutoRouter offers the same known push, pop, and friends methods. That's these things. Okay, navigator.push, or like, for example, let me say navigator dot pop push named, can pop, maybe pop, pop until. Okay, there's all these methods. That's what he means by push, pop, and friends. Okay, so now we have, let's say we have something like AutoRouter of context. Okay. Okay, so we need to import AutoRouter. AutoRoute. All right, so that's done. So AutoRouter of context. If you're familiar with the provider package, you might notice that this looks like this. This is a pretty common pattern I've noticed in Flutter. Okay, it's more verbose usually, but we'll start here because this is the more verbose way. Okay, so now we have that, and then we would call, I think, these methods. So let's see, if I just say dot, what pops up? Okay, it has, okay, we don't actually have the pop. Oh, here it is, it's down here. So this is interesting. I need to know what these little purple P with the green dots mean inside. Oh, is that a property? I think that's a property. These must be functions. And then these are the methods. Okay, there's your pop, your push named. I don't know that it has all the friends, does it? Yeah, it looks like it does. Looks like it implements them. So that's good. Awesome. Okay, so we used navigator.push earlier. Let's use this push. Where is it? Dot push. Okay, there it is. Maybe it's not defined in there. Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to go look. But and now we're going to have a route. So how do we insert the route? Well, in our generated routes file, I think you can pass the name like this if you wanted to. Let's just see if that works for starting. It looks like it's not going to allow it. I'm going to comment this one out just so we can see it while we're here. Yeah, that doesn't look right, does it? I think it actually needs a path. Okay. Did you see, for example, earlier when I did this dot push, it had this deprecated push path that takes a string of a path of type string. So now push takes something. There's a lot more stuff cut off here, but I think it might work. So let's pass in the path. Okay, first route had, oh, that's right. Well, that's going to be home. We really don't need that. We're navigating to the second route. Duh. Okay, second route right there. Let's navigate to the second route. Okay, save that. I think there's going to be some issues. The argument type string can't be assigned to the parameter type. I think this might work though. Let me see something. If I say push named, yeah, so push named appears to be similar to that push path. You see how it takes kind of the same arguments, push path and push named. But push takes something else. So while I think you could say push named, okay, and get away with it. Okay, look, I'm getting an error. And this is in the test widget. I don't really care about that. Let me hot restart this or just replay it. Okay. What was that? Generated / second route. Maybe it needs the slash in front of it. Okay, that worked. So you can use push named and you put the path in front, the slash, and then say the path. Okay, that's one way to do it. Let's get rid of that, uncomment this. Because we used navigator.push earlier, let's instead use that again. We'll look at the documentation. Okay, see, so this is what they saw right here. Is you can say push named and that's the path, or now you can say push. And I like this because when you can use const in Flutter, you should. I think it's more performant is what they say. So let's go ahead and say const, and then ours will probably be second route. Okay. So I'm going to say const. Let's see if it autofills. There it is. Okay. And it is an instance of that class. And again, close it off with a semicolon. Probably have to import something here. No? Okay, let me run it. So I'm going to save and see what we have. The constructor being called isn't a const constructor. Can't be assigned. Interesting. Yeah, did it just like that. So maybe, do we have, okay, this is the library, the package itself. That's my second route page. But remember, look at this. So second route doesn't, it doesn't live in this file, right? The only thing second route.dart knows about is the class second route. Okay. And actually, because it has the same name, it's the same class name, does that create a problem? I don't know. Leave a message in the comments if you think it creates a problem. But because I think this really needs to come from the routes file, I think we need to import that. Okay. So we'll do package, Flutter, where is it? What is it? How do I say routes.gr.dart? So I am in first route, so I need to what? Go back up. And then go to config. Yeah. And always when I type my imports, I always forget that semicolon. Okay. So it still doesn't like that. Maybe that's a problem. That is a problem, dude. What are we going to do about this problem? Aha, look at this error message. This is helpful. All right, check this out. This is a really good error to uncover. So earlier, either in this video or the last one, I said that even though the Flutter team in the cookbook calls these views or screens or pages, they call them routes. If you use AutoRoute and you want to do the thing that is least surprising, so someone reading your code could say push the second route, like that makes sense. You would think that would be okay, but it isn't. So in a perfect world, these wouldn't be, your pages here would be like second page, and then in your annotation file you would replace page with route. That way your class would be second page, and whenever you want to go there you would say second route, okay, or second page route if you want to be more verbose and take this line off. But for now, to get this to work, we could remove this line altogether and call it second route, or we could say replace route with page. So now it's just flip-flopped. So now we're going to push our second page onto the stack. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Remember, this is the annotation, so we now need to generate our routes file again. Okay, so instead of being first route, it's going to be first page. Instead of second route, it's going to be second page. Okay, I got to wrap this video up. Okay. Okay, I think that's going to be okay. And again, it's not going to actually import that file, but it is going to have the new routes file. Right now it's red because I think it doesn't exist. See how it says create file? I think it tries to trash it and generate a brand new one. I haven't seen how that does with Git yet, if you can really track changes in your routes file since it's generated. We'll find out how smart Git is with that. Okay, so I have my second page. I know about the second page here because it's in my generated routes file, which is right here at the bottom. I now have second page. Looks like Git is tracking that pretty well. Okay, so it's just detecting these few changes. That's good. It looks like the path it uses under the hood, though, does come from the fact that the annotation takes in our class name. Okay, so that is converted into the path, but what we use and what we would read as humans in the code is the class generated name, second page, like that. Okay? If you wanted to push named, though, you would have to say second route. So that's less than desirable. Okay? Don't use push named if you're going to have this weirdness, because it could get really confusing. All right, we saved it. I think we're good to test it over here. And it doesn't work. Look at that. Let's restart our app, just to be sure. Okay, there, it works. All right, so something about generating a new file. It's kind of like in the Rails world, you have your application deployed onto, let's say with Passenger or something, and you make some changes on the server. You might have to restart Passenger for that to work. So think about this simulator was compiled with the previous generated routes file, and because we changed that underneath it, we had to really just go in and stop and start the app, which I did with that play button up there. I didn't use stop actually, or the hot restart or hot reload. Okay, but it works. All right, so this is good. That's great. Now on the second page, if we want to pop back, instead of using navigator.pop, which still works, which is nice, and this really isn't too bad, you know, but because we're using AutoRoute, the package, let's be consistent. So how do we pop off the thing? So let's say, again, AutoRoute.of, and then what was it? Context? How do we do that? Yeah, context. Okay, I need to import this, right? Import, not the annotations, AutoRoute itself. Okay. Why are you still red? Okay, you think it's done. It's not done. Right? Isn't that what we did? AutoRouter. Oh my god. AutoRouter? Is that seriously AutoRouter? Okay, yeah, so this is from... Okay, this breaks the element of least surprise, I think. So the package is called AutoRoute or AutoRoute, but then we use AutoRouter. Okay, so that's going to trip you up if you're just typing it out. Okay, whatever. Okay, the show must go on. All right, so we want to essentially pop the same way, I believe. Does it have pop? It looks like it does. Can I do that? Doesn't like something about it. Come on. Unnecessary statements. I don't know. I'm going to save that. Open route. Go back. So the go back is broken. Let's see what the documentation says. Do they have an example to pop? Push all, replace all. Context.router.pop. That's if you're doing it the other way. So maybe I have to like, okay, I think I know what it is. Yes. I need to call a method like that. This isn't Ruby. Okay, save. Actually, let's like hot reload, hot restart. Okay, it should reload the first page when it comes back up. There it is. Okay, first route, open route. Okay, now we're on the second, so now we have AutoRouter of context.pop. Go back, and that works. Okay, great. Yeah, I should wrap this video up soon. So we've made some changes. Okay, let's see what those were. We had to do this funny business because we called our views, we called them routes. So yeah, we had that issue with the class name being used in two places, which was a very good error to uncover in experience, because now you have experience with that and can better understand the ecosystem you're working with. So we're going to add that, our generated routes file. Let's just say A to everything in that file. Okay. Now we have my app. So we have our generated routes file so that we can use, we declared a router here, a private variable that lives in our myapp class. This routes came from what I named it in the annotations file. We changed material app to material app.router, and then we use this convention, the underscore router dot something, so we didn't have to import another file to use that auto delegate thing. Okay, and then we got rid of home. So I'm going to say yes to that. Our first route now needs to know about our generated routes file, so it can use the second one. Okay, in AutoRoute, when we said AutoRouter dot of context, that's why we needed that. Okay, we don't specifically need the second route there. Okay, we replaced our navigator.push and our material page route calls with AutoRouter of context. We pushed on a const with the second page, and that came out of the generated routes file. And then finally, our second route file is using AutoRouter of context.pop. Perfect. I want to say one more thing before we commit that. If I'm on the first route here, this first page, if in my mind that this onPressed callback here, you know, that this action we're performing, if this is going to go to the second page or the second route or whatever, I want to be able to kind of like click, like command click on whatever this is, and instead of going to the routes file, the generated one, I kind of want it to open up this thing here. It's an easy way to navigate to that class. That's kind of a feature that I wish was there, but just be aware that that's not the case. This is the instantiated class itself. Okay. All right, so let's commit this. So I'm going to just status. Did it get everything? Yes. So this, what did we do? We set up AutoRoute in material app.router. Okay, that was the main thing. So now we're prefer AutoRoute over navigator. I'm going to say material page route or whatever that thing was called that we got rid of, right? Material page route. Yeah. What else? Yeah, there was a typo. Call it routes. Yeah. I think that's all I want to say about that right now. Yeah. Yeah, we did the setup and now we prefer to use AutoRoute. I think that's fine. Okay, so I'm just going to close that off. All right. Real quick, you probably won't use AutoRouter of context. So if you want to convert that, now you can just say context.router.something, okay? So let's go make those changes. So instead of AutoRouter of context, we'll just say context.router. Okay. I think you can do that, right? Where'd you come from? Okay, I just had to take time to catch up. Same thing here. Let's just delete that and just say context.router.pop. Cool. All right, looks a little better. Ideally, we could just say router.pop or something. Maybe someday the context will become like this, or the new keyword, where it's just kind of like something extra you don't need there. Okay. So let's commit that change. Prefer context.router over AutoRouter of context. It's a mouthful. Okay, so we made that change. It's good. And I think this still works. Yeah, good. Okay, I think that's all our app needs to do right now. We are using the AutoRoute library, the package. So next time, maybe we can have a page that takes some arguments and we will go into that. Maybe we'll explore some other examples. Just depends on kind of like what I want to learn and then share. Yeah, we need something if we're going to pop and bring some result back. We got to do that. Yeah. So right now, the last thing I want to say is when you discover, contributing to open source can be very rewarding. It's a lot for one person or a small team to maintain a package like this. So an easy way to submit a pull request to be involved is to make changes to documentation. So for example, we had this app router here that actually had to be the same thing here, this app router, because we didn't declare this private variable anywhere in our class. Okay, or even like this typo. These are the types of things that you can do to contribute to the open source ecosystem into this package. It's a great library. I really like it. It's got a lot of likes. It's very popular. It's not a Flutter favorite yet. So something, for example, like if I say provider, zoink. Okay, you'll see that's a Flutter favorite. I think based on the podcast I listened to earlier today, I think this or one of the other routing packages might be blessed by the Flutter team, if you will, kind of like Provider was. So keep an eye out for that. That might be coming soon. Okay, that is it for now, and then hopefully I will come up with another video and we'll keep learning about AutoRouter. All right, thanks for your time.